Hey, welcome back to Homeschool Peace. I'm Cassandra. Today I'm going to be talking all about Gather Round homeschooling. In this video today, I'm going to be sharing how I started using Gather Round, how I am going to be incorporating one of their fuller units. This is Living Off the Land, their pioneer study, how I'm going to be incorporating this into our school year with our existing material, as well as taking you through this fuller unit, giving you some good close-ups, as well as taking a look at the student workbooks as well. So let's go ahead and talk about Gather Round. If you frequently visit my channel, you may have already seen a few things about Gather Round. I've been using Gather Round for their holiday mini units. So this is their first Christmas as well as Christmas around the world. This has been a great break from our other curriculum. We've taken that pause right around the holidays, gone through these smaller units, and then jumped back into our regular curriculum. So if you are also interested in Gather Round, but you just don't know where exactly to start, check out some of their mini units. It's a great way of, say, if you already have your other core curriculum you've been using and you just want to sort of check it out, you can get your feet wet and see what it's all about. Now this year I'm diving in a little deeper, doing one of their fuller units, this fuller unit being that Living Off the Land. Now this fuller unit, it's going to include all sort of your main core subjects. We're talking like language arts, history, geography, science. This is a Bible-based curriculum, so there's definitely some biblical things mixed in as well. Plus they also add some things like some music or art can be mixed in as well. So this is your main core subjects. You gather all your kids around the table, and we're talking like pre-K kindergarten, the whole way up to high school can all be taught at the same time with the same sort of theme. There's also student workbooks that you'll get for each of your kids based on their ability level. So you might have somebody that's doing a elementary book, somebody doing a middle school book, a high school book, whatever level you need. Everyone has a little bit of a different workbook based on their skill level. After you're going through and reading through your teacher's guide, going through the information, there's activities and things built in here as well, and also a lot of optional, really great stuff you can add. They have a reading list so you can read aloud to your student based on, maybe the theme that you're going through. They have book recommendations that the student can read. There's even some like copy work and seat work books that you can pick up as well through Gather Round to sort of add to that unit that you're already working on. The only thing that is not included in this teacher's guide or in this sort of unit study is math. So you will have to add math on with your students if you're not, if you don't already have a math program going on. Each student will need their own math because that's not included in here. And that's really how you would work it for if this was your main core curriculum. For this particular unit that I'm going to be using, there is 20 lessons. So the idea you would do this 4 days a week, because a lot of people have like their co-ops on Fridays. And so you do 4 days a week, say going across, say for that 5 weeks. And when you're done, you just pick the sort of that next theme, that next idea that, say if it's Vikings or a medieval, even just like chemistry is even a topic too, and you pick that next topic and then you go through it with your kids and you just keep on going through the school year. Now for my family, I'm going to be using it a little bit differently, so let's go ahead and talk about how I'm going to be incorporating this unit study into our existing material. You might be asking, why try to add anything to your existing school day? If you follow my channel, for language arts, we use Logic of English. For history and geography, we've been using master books. And for science, we use The Good and the Beautiful. So I really already have my core subjects covered. Now, if you're using Gather Round as your main core subjects, just those subjects, this video part is probably not for you. This is for the family that already has your existing curriculum, but you're looking at these Gather Round units and going, well, could I add a unit study as part of our homeschool year? How could that look? And it all sort of started for me. In April, I ended up attending the Gather Round Rise Up conference that was in North Carolina. And what I thought was going to be more of a curriculum pitch and maybe little bit of teaching was completely different in such an amazing way. It was very much a spiritual retreat with worship and teaching, completely really focused on God's vision for your family and as well with your homeschool life and plan God has for that. So from that, I went back and evaluated my existing material. And from that, I really felt led to keep the course, to keep our existing material, that there's purpose in what we already have started with my family. So with that, the word that sort of stuck with me was spice. to add a little bit of spice into our homeschool day. We all have days that we're really struggling getting up and getting going with homeschooling, whatever curriculum we're using. Even if we are using Gather Round, there are days that we struggle. Our kids struggle and they're not really feeling it. So what I wanted to have is something in my back pocket that I could pull out on those days that we're struggling and just have a break from our existing curriculum, but that we're still continuing with a homeschool day. And that's really where Gather Round came in. So for how I'm incorporating this to sort of kick off the year, I'm starting with this unit. So for the first 5 days of our school year, this is the only thing we're going to do. We're not even adding math in for the first 5 days. So we're just starting this. My kids are actually excited for the beginning of school year. We actually do take a full summer break. I know some families school year round. We don't. We take the full break. So it sometimes, well, most times it's hard getting them started back into the school year. And so this is for my family, I'm looking at it as such a great way to sort of encourage them to get back into the groove of homeschooling and the school year by starting this for the first 5 days. My son had just recently covered some things with pioneer life in his history. So he had some interest in how did, they survive? How would it be like living off the land? So I would say if you're interested in doing something like this, talk to your kids, see what they're interested in topic-wise, and just pick one unit topic from Gather Round to have with you and ready to go. So whatever topic that is that your kids are interested in. And then for my family, we'll start those first 5 days doing this so that they get some really great excitement and momentum on the topic. Then what I'm going to be doing is every month, whether it's 2 times a month, maybe it'll be 3, but definitely we'll shoot for 2 times a month. We will take a day that we just take a break from our existing curriculum, push it all aside, even push the math aside, and we just spend 1 day focused on what's in this unit study. So something very different than I know how Gather Round has it planned out for using these, but it's using this as sort of adding to your existing material just to add some spice and excitement into your regular day. And that's not saying that our existing curriculum isn't exciting and fun, but just having something that you can mix up your school day. So hopefully that helps you out if you are interested in trying to add one of these units. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the actual teacher's guide and the student workbooks. Whether you're choosing to use the Living Off the Land theme unit, or if there's a different theme that you're interested in, go to the Gather Round's website. You can take a look at their unit studies and choose one that fits best with your family. When choosing the unit, you will pick between a digital package or the printed products. If you're choosing the digital package, it's going to come with the teacher's guide as well as all of the student workbooks, all the different levels. And so then once you get that digital file, you can choose whichever one fits your kids best. And obviously then you'll still need to either print them or send them to a print shop. And that's how the digital package works. For the printed, you would choose the teacher's guide and then your individual levels. You'll need to have that selected ahead of time. There are some really great samples on the Gather Round's website, so you can check those out and see which level fits best with your kids. When getting the teacher's guide is going to come, if you chose printed, it is going to be bound with this coil binding on the side, as well as like a thicker cardstock cover, a little glossy on the front. The pictures are beautiful in the Gather Round units, just tons of these watercolor pictures, and it's just printed very well. For the student workbooks, you'll choose the levels that you need. They also come bound very similar. They have the coil binding though on top, and this is because of left-handed kids. It makes it so that you can flip it completely open and that binding doesn't get in the way of their left hand. With that, you also have the thicker cover as well with the beautiful pictures and just very nicely printed. So let's go ahead and take a look inside the teacher's guide. The teacher guide begins with some just general information about Gather Round. Definitely recommend going through that information. On the next couple pages, it goes through some guidance for selecting the workbooks for your students based on their levels. And they do have some recommendations based on the students' ages, which can sort of help guide you into what to select. There's 6 different workbook levels. So for the pre-reader, these are basically kids that are not reading yet, would be your 3 to 5-year-olds. For your early readers is 6 to 8-year-olds, early elementary 8 to 10, upper elementary is your 10 to 12-year-olds, middle school 12 to 15, and high school being your 16 14 to 18-year-olds. Obviously, you know your kids best. Maybe you have the student that you really do need to provide them a little bit more of a challenge. So maybe bumping up to that next level is what they need. Other students that maybe you need to bring them down a level just because they need a little bit more support. So really gauge this on just sort of an idea of where your students could be, but go to the Gather Round's website, check out their samples, and get a really good feel for the different levels before selecting the levels for your students. For how long this would take, Gather Round suggests about an hour and a half to 2 hours to go through reading the teacher's guide and going through the student workbook pages. Now, if you are gonna dig deeper and you plan to really go outside, like for this unit, and you plan to actually go in the woods and try to, build your own structure, or you're planning to plant a garden with your kids, or the day they're talking about canning, if you're really planning to can with them, obviously those can add onto your day and really take you into a different path and make the day longer. But for just the work here, it's gonna be probably around your hour and a half to 2 hours. And then if you're using this as your main core subjects, you'll also then want to add on math as well. When going to the next page, you can see the table of contents. There is the 20 lessons. As mentioned, different things of studying, like creating your homestead. How do you build and create your house without having electricity? What are things that you would need? How would you prepare for winter? Different things with taking care of animals and livestock, as well as even just what did they wear and how did they make their own clothing? So there's different things mixed into this level, and I'm so excited to go through this lesson and this unit with my kids. So let's go ahead and jump into lesson 1. The very first page that's up here is actually a Bible verse, and it's to have you're supposed to read this to your kids and encourage them to learn this Bible verse so they can then recite the Bible verse. For littles, obviously you could select part of the Bible verse, is what I typically do for my youngest, but just working with them on reading and practicing this Bible verse. For lesson 1, you sort of kick off by gathering your kids around the table and you're reading about preparing for your journey. Asking your kids questions about, like, what do you think it would feel like if we didn't have a house and we didn't have electricity and you're at a place where you don't even know and you had to leave stuff behind? Like, how would you feel? And sort of going through what the pioneers would have felt like. And it brings in some devotional prompts as well as discussion items. The next 2 pages, and it goes into the 3rd page, is more teacher's guide material that you're reading aloud. You're just talking to your kids about the pioneers and talking about the time of the westward expansion and why did people travel out west and why did they try to find new land and opportunity, and going through that with your kids, and obviously pausing and stopping and asking questions and having them have some discussion points with you. On page 14 is where that teacher's guide part stops for the day, and there's some just notes to the students, notes to the teachers, as well as there's a hands-on activity saying to use the map in the back in the appendix and sort of trace your path that you would take if you were going to journey out west. On the today's checklist, it shows that you are to read that Bible verse to your family and work on reciting it, completing copy work in the seat work pages, which are included in these student books, which I can show you in just a few minutes, as well as working on any spelling words, and to complete the notebook pages for the day. So you would go through this with your kids after reading it, helping them on their student workbooks and sort of checking those off as you go. The last page for this particular lesson just gives some guidance for using the workbooks for the different levels, as well as just some answers for your middle school and high school students. So let's go ahead and take a look at these student workbooks. The 3 student workbooks that I can share with you today is the early elementary, upper elementary, and middle school. Those will be the 3 levels that I'll be working with my students this coming year. The first page to share is the lesson 1. This is their notebooking page. It's on page 19, so you can have all your students turn to the same page, and this notebooking page should be out when you're actually reading from the teacher's guide. So as you're reading from the teacher's guide, the students are able to either color or add some notes and start working on some of these pages as you are talking. For the youngest student, she'll be doing some coloring as well as just including some pictures and some short words on what she would include if she was packing for this journey. My middle student will be comparing pioneer packing versus vacation packing, and my oldest student comparing packing then versus packing now, and also just answering a discussion question right here on the page. And so that when they're done with the notebooking pages, you're finished speaking through the teacher's guide, you're done reading it, answering the questions, then you have your students move to the next section, which is spelling. So on the next page, the youngest student is going to be working on a few spelling words and writing down the words in these boxes. The middle student has some spelling words as well and is going to be writing out those words, while the oldest student, the middle school student, has some little more challenging words, as well as looking back to other writings and sort of selecting some commonly misspelled words that they have. Once you've wrapped up spelling with your kids, you'll have them flip to the next page, which is a social studies page. For the youngest student, they can color these pictures, as well as just sort of have a discussion point on talking about how you need to be prepared emotionally and mentally for something like going to a sleepover versus performing a song in church. The middle student and also my oldest student is also going to be comparing some different scenarios and talking about being physically and also mentally prepared for this journey out west, with just a little bit different questions in how the pages are presented to them. When they're done talking about social studies, there is a history section. That page is next. For the youngest student, they're going to be drawing basically a picture of their backyard and then talking about how would it be to break up their backyard into different sections like that Homestead Act. For the next student, my upper elementary student, she'll be doing something very similar with the drawing, but then also answering some questions, while the oldest student is just going to be answering some questions regarding the Homestead Act. The last page is an art page, and this page, the youngest student, right on their workbook, is going to be making a poster about the land of opportunity, encouraging people to make that westward trip, while my middle student as well as my oldest student will be instead making a brochure regarding that land of opportunity as well. And that wraps up the pages in these student workbooks for lesson 1. When they're done doing that, there's obviously some other hands-on activities included in the teacher's guide that you can go and jump into, as well as for each of these lessons, for what they call is a week of lessons, they also have a page in the beginning of the book. It's just a seat work page where they're also just writing some notes for the week, as well as taking a look at for the youngest, they're looking at their calendar, while the middle and the oldest student are also just looking at their schedule. So there's a few other pages that they can work on in the beginning of their student books as well. So now I'm just going to take a minute and sort of flip through these student workbooks as well as the teacher's guide and give you some additional close-ups of these books. I hope you enjoyed going through Gather Round, talking about how to incorporate it into your regular material that you're already using, and also taking a look at the living off the land. If you have any questions or comments, I'd love to hear from you. Leave those below, and before you leave, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.